הערים אשא עיני אל הערים מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי אשא עיני אל הערים אשא עיני אל הערים מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי מאין יבוא עזרי. Where will my help come from? Where will my help come from? Esa einai el harim, esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Me'ayin yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rabbi Danny Moss. I'm honored to be here this morning, joined by Rabbi Stacy Offner. In this moment of farewell, in this moment of transition and levaya, that's the Hebrew word for a funeral, is levaya, which means escorting. It's an escorting to the life beyond life, to the world beyond worlds, an escorting of the bereaved through this stage of deep grief. The biblical book of Ecclesiastes offers many insights into the human condition. One of its more cryptic verses reads as follows: Yom hamavet miyom hivaldo. The day of one's death is greater than the day of one's birth. The ancient sages in the Jewish tradition naturally found this verse to be very puzzling. How, they wondered, could the day of one's death be understood as better than the day of one's birth? The Talmudic sage Rabbi Levi answers this question with a parable. Imagine, he says, that there are two ships, each one of them laden with merchandise, one coming into port and the other leaving on its journey. The people standing on the dock, of course, are cheering only for the ship that is coming into port. When a puzzled spectator asks them, "Tell me, why do you cheer for the ship coming in, but not the ship going out to sea? It's the opposite of what I would expect." At that point, someone in the crowd replies, "We are cheering the ship that is coming into the dock, for we know that it went out in peace and it has returned to port too in peace." However, the ship that is only beginning its voyage, who can tell what its fate will be? So it is, teach the rabbis, with every human being. When a person is born and begins her life's journey, we do not know what sort of life she will live or what sort of person she will be, what will be the nature of her deeds. However, when she has finished the journey, it is apparent to all what she accomplished, just who she was, that she came into port, bishalom, in peace. Norma's life journey is deserving of that celebration and recognition. She danced through life. She brought love and delight to those whose lives she touched in turn. She was kind and sincere, and as I have been told, quite the fashionista. She was even a one-time runner-up Miss Coney Island. As myriad emotions and memories fill this space today, our hearts are first and foremost with the mourners, the Diamond family, Jay, Toby, and Lisa, along with Tina and Tony and Keith. And of course, the beloved grandchildren, Aaron, Stephen, Nicholas, Emily, Samantha, Benjamin, and Erica, and the great grandbaby, Raiden. That word livaya that I mentioned a moment ago in Hebrew, it's the funerary word. It comes from a Hebrew root that means attached to or connected with, because we are all connected, everyone who is here, in sympathy and support. We are connected, joining together, walking together with you in your time of farewell, as we gather together to rejoice in the fullness of Norma's life. As we mourn her loss, we do affirm the beauty of that journey coming back into port, bishalom, in peace. And we begin now to share stories and memories, share those family anecdotes and jokes, and reflect on a long life that is now going to become a beautiful legacy for this family and in this world. And in Judaism, we can offer one another two gifts in times of loss. The first gift seems quite simple. It's actually not, and that's the gift of presence. So all of you who are here today, if you've never been to a Jewish funeral, if you've never been to a synagogue, that's okay. You did the big appreciated mitzvah, the Jewish commandment of presence, of being together with this family for Nechum Avelim, to support and comfort the bereaved. And the second gift is that gift of sharing of memories and stories. Judaism wants us to address this human need to remember the good times and also the not so good times, and to have an honest and loving look retrospectively as a way to help cope with loss and walk the mourner's path. And so that's how we begin this morning. We begin with the words of tradition from our people, psalms of comfort, stories, and memories. Looking up in the eyes of our ancestors who wrote in the Psalms, I gaze up to the mountains. I gaze where I can only look, up in the beauty of the world around us, in search of answers, in search of comfort.
How appropriate that we began this service with the words of Psalm 121, the 121st Psalm, chanted in Hebrew by Rabbi Moss, Esa Einai El Harim. The very first line of the Psalm proclaims, I lift my eyes to the mountains. And as you say, lift my eyes, you stand taller and your shoulders go back and you reach up. And for me, that very first line evokes the perfect image of Norma Diamond. Norma Diamond was a dancer. It's the first thing you notice about her, even when she's not dancing. I first met Norma here at Temple Beth Tikvah, long after she had stopped dancing. But Norma had not lost her touch. Norma carried herself with such grace, such poise, such lift. Just being near Norma made you want to stand taller yourself, to lift yourself up. Well into the years of her life, when those around her were noting their aches and their pains and their creaks, Norma was still dancing. What was the source of her strength? Surely it was her dance partner, her husband, Shelley. Norma and Shelley met because they loved to dance. Can you imagine the energy, the flow, the grace? Norma and Shelley were beautiful dance partners. And I know, even though I never met Shelley, he had passed away long before I met Norma. But I know, because on visits to Norma's home in Madison, she would show me photographs of the two of them dancing. Though widowed in 1999, Norma kept dancing. And strength continued to course through her body, even as physical challenges increased. She was stubborn. She was strong. So back to Psalm 121, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my strength? Norma answered that question herself. She shared the answer to that question in a project that we did here at TBT about 10 years ago. We conducted interviews of our senior citizens. They seemed so old to me back then, but that's another story. We conducted interviews of our senior citizens to learn more about their lives. And Norma agreed to be interviewed. She spoke of her roots in Brooklyn and New Haven, that she went to Erasmus High School, which I personally noted with glee, as my parents are alumni of Erasmus High School. She spoke of her marriage and how she and her husband were drawn to each other because of their common love of the dance floor. And she spoke of the Arthur Murray Dance Studio that became her family's enterprise. But most of all, she spoke of her 3 children, Jay, Toby, and Lisa. So I quote directly from the interview in which Norma states, "My children and grandchildren are my proudest accomplishment." So now Jay and Tina and Toby and Tony and Lisa and Keith, we gather together to comfort you at this time of your loss. And all those grandchildren who are filling up an entire row. Aaron and Stephen and Nicholas and Emily and Samantha and Benjamin and Erica, we ask for God's comfort for you. And to Raiden, it's so nice meeting you in person, Raiden. Your mother shows tons and tons of pictures all the time of you, Raiden, the ray of life, Norma's great-grandchild. And for Raiden, we hope that the days of your life will be filled with memories shared of your great-grandmother. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love. And love, Norma, you all did so beautifully. So at this time of grief, we turn for comfort to Psalm 121 in all its fullness. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. God is your protection at your right hand. God will guard you from all harm. May God guard your souls, your going and your coming, now and forever. Amen. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting.
More words of comfort from the Psalms. Adonai ma'adam v'tedaehu, ben enosh v'tchashvehu, Adam lehevel dama, yamav ketzel over, baboker yatzitz v'chalaf, le'erev yimolev v'yavesh, tashev enosh ad daka, v'tomer shuvu v'nei Adam. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like the grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Would that we were wise. Would that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away with us. Our glory does not accompany us, but stays in the world. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Adonai, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate.
L'chol zman ve'et, l'chol chafetz tachat hashamayim. You know these words from the book of Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak.
23rd Psalm. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, bin odeshe yarbitzeni, al mei mnuchot inaleini. Nafshi eshovev, nafshi eshovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech b'geitz al mavet, lo yirara, ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha, Shiftecha umishantecha, Hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, neged sorerai, Dishanata v'shemen roshi, Dishanta v'shemen roshi, Dishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti beveit Adonai, v'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim.
God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
Jay, Toby, Lisa, when I asked you about your childhood, one of you said, we had our own Camelot. Love abounded in your family home. It was a charmed childhood. As Rabbi Offner said, Norma and Shelley were a legendary team. They would dance together and bring their gifts to so many at Arthur Murray. Of course, gifts of the arts, but also of empathy and kindness and understanding. And at this point, if I may editorialize as a non-dancer, as the son of a serious dancer who is not himself a very good dancer, I know that it can sometimes feel a little uncomfortable for somebody who is new to dance to be watched by others dancing. So I have a feeling that their partnership, and you shared with me that Shelley really was the empath. He was the one who helped people really feel heard and seen and at ease and comfortable. And I think that that ability as a dance teacher is a really exceptional ability, because to help people feel good in their own skin, in their own bodies, while dancing is a really impressive thing to be able to do. And by the way, I would share that I also have a personal connection, having seen this dance company perform actually while I was playing. Most people don't know that I play in a jazz orchestra. And the company, the Arthur Murray Dancers, actually came to dance one night. So I got to see how the legacy continues. And it was very impressive, I might add, their swing dancing. So to be able to do that and also be champion ballroom dancers themselves, I think really speaks to the strength of their partnership and their professional commitments. Of course, in addition to caring for all of you, tending to the home, dancing, she also worked as a teacher's aide and as a paraprofessional. And her dancing abilities also led her to choreograph many of the Old Saybrook High School musicals over the years. She was also an award-winning photographer, a piano player, and a writer. She was also a skilled knitter and sewer and crocheter. I also learned that she was the handy one of the parents, right? So if somebody would say, we need to hang a picture, Dad would kind of scratch his head and get the wrench. Mom would be the one with the hammer knowing what to do with it. So I appreciate very much Rabbi Offner's reflections earlier, because I did not have the chance to know Norma as her rabbi, and I'm sorry for that. I know that she was a joyful participant here, a Torah study participant. I'm grateful for those reflections and remembrances, and I think the most important part of our morning is really to hear remembrances that come straight from the hearts of those who loved her the most. So Jay, at this time, would you please come forward? Remember, right next to the mic.
Yes. I've had some practice at this. Thank you for being here, first of all. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. It definitely helps in the process. Some of my comments this morning, you got an overview of them already, so you'll kind of hear a little reinforcement in that regard. So, yeah, Norma Helene Diamond, and actually the obituary said Norma Helen Diamond. But anyway, close enough. Again, born July 15th, 1934, okay? Almost 90, okay? In Brooklyn, New York, which has been talked about. And then Mom, she grew up there. Actually, though, she used to speak about her summers coming to Woodmont, part of Milford, not too far away, and how she loved it. And she even wrote about it quite a bit. In May 1953, it is May, she married Dad, and she was not quite 19 when she got married. But she was mature for her age. She was the oldest of 3 children, and more on her marrying Dad in a minute. I'll give you a little insight into that. But they lived in Brooklyn, and as discussed, Dad worked at the Arthur Murray Dance Studios there. I came along in 1955, so you can do the math. Toby in 1957, okay? And then at that point, somewhere along the line, we moved to Hamden, Connecticut, 57, 58. And the reason for that is Dad had the New Haven Arthur Murray Dance Studio franchise with a business partner. And then in 1960, we moved to glorious Old Saybrook down the road. And the reason for that is Dad then had the New London franchise of the Arthur Murray Dance Studio. We moved into a nice, relatively new neighborhood in Old Saybrook called Forest Glen. We had a brand new, very modest house on a corner of Briarwood and Cedarwood. Dad was a numbers guy. I became a numbers guy, still am. And for some reason, I just remember the house was $20,000 at that point in time. Inflation, obviously. In 1961, Lisa came along with the red hair. And this is kind of the era where most of the memories for us really began. So as discussed, to reiterate, who was Mom? She, first and foremost, she was a loving wife. They were, in my opinion, a great storybook couple. They were very, very, very close. They did everything together. So the first thing I want to share with you is not something I wrote, but something my mother wrote. She did some kind of writing classes, and she put together, there's a bunch of really cool stories in here. Reflections is kind of overall what it is. I'm going to read you just the first one. And the title, and she wrote this in 2002, and it's called Meeting. And it puts a little color around how they met. It was Christmas intercession at Brooklyn College, and I finally consented to go out with this fella from school who had asked me out several times. I don't know why he said yes. I guess he just wore me down. He picked me up at my house, and we drove from Brooklyn to a nightclub in Flushing, Long Island, about an hour away. There was music and entertainment, a dance show called a Champagne Hour. A couple from the Arthur Murray Dance Studio, Shelley and Shirley, did an exhibition of several dances, rumba, foxtrot, swing. Then they proceeded to ask for volunteers from the audience for a competition. Shirley picked a few gentlemen and brought them onto the dance floor. Shelley did the same, but he walked around among the tables and approached me and asked me if I wanted to join. It works like this. Shirley would dance with the gentlemen one at a time to the dance of their choice. Shelley would dance with each woman, allowing them to choose what dance they wanted to do. The audience would applaud for whomever they thought was the best, and that man and woman who got the most applause would win a bottle of champagne, hence Champagne Hour. Now, at the time, my father and mother were taking rumba dance lessons at a studio, and my father was always after my mom to practice. She would say, "Oh, Lou, go practice with Norma." And because of that, I became fairly good and confident doing the rumba. So when Shelley approached me, although I was very nervous, I consented to dance with him. No, I did not win the bottle of champagne, but Shelley made me feel very comfortable, and it was very exciting for me, and I was not accustomed to dancing in front of an audience. He chatted with me and asked where I lived, and when I told him Brooklyn, he said he lived there too. The evening ended, and my date took me home. The very next evening, I had agreed to go out on a blind date, which I hated to do. I was doing my girlfriend a favor. She was busy, and he was a friend of hers from South America visiting family in the States, and they had nothing to do that evening. It was only the two of us, and he took me to a very well-known nightclub in Brooklyn called Ben Maxix. I was delighted, as it was a beautiful place, and they had great entertainment and music. There were lots of people and lots of Christmas parties going on. There was a party across the room at a large table. A woman got up from the table and came over to us. She said, "Remember me from last night? I'm Shirley. Shelley and I did the dance show that you were part of last night." My date excused himself, sensing, I think, that this was a girl talk conversation. Shirley continued, "Shelley recognized you from across the room. The Arthur Murray Dance Studio from Flushing is having a Christmas party here. Shelley saw that you were with someone, so he sent me over to say hello." Just then, Shelley approached the table. We exchanged hellos, and I thought it was quite a coincidence that he was here. He asked me very politely for my phone number, and I gave it to him, still thinking of the wonder of the second meeting so far from the first. Later, I found out that Shirley was married to Mike, her dancing partner, and they always did the show together on Wednesday night. But Mike had twisted his ankle, and Shelley had filled in for him. That weekend, Shelley called me. My parents were very skeptical about this date I had made with him and were very concerned as to his background, religion, etc. All turned out well. We dated every weekend from that point on. My parents got to know him and his family and grew to love them as I did. We were engaged in October of 1952 and married in May of 1953 and danced through 45 years of a simply wonderful partnership. What still strikes me is the chain of events and the many coincidences that led to our meeting, or was, if after all, the hand of fate. That was Mom's story. So I sum it up and I say, I think Prince Charming met his princess bride. But from this point forward, you really can't speak about Mom without at least interweaving Dad. So as talked about, she was a devoted mother, and she led by example. She was a proud grandmother, as talked about. Once again, row 2. Nick, who's in Hawaii, Emily, Samantha, Ben and Erica, Aaron and Stephen. And again, to reinforce this, give him lots of kudos, the highlight in her life, I am telling you this, in the last year, was Emily and Daniel's son, Raiden. Like you cannot believe, cannot believe. If you wanted to change her mood, just say Raiden. Mom was smart. She really was, and a great communicator. And as discussed, talented. Piano player, thank you, Mom, okay, for turning me on to that at age 8. Singing, thank you for that too. Creative, photographer, writer, poet. We mention that she was a great dancer? Okay. And again, even a choreographer of the Old Saybrook High School musicals. Again, attractive, a beauty pageant runner-up, as talked about. And again, a fashionista, to use the modern word. Classy, stylish, hip. And so was Dad, actually, for that matter. I'd like to think that those apples at least don't fall too far from the tree. Poise, fun-loving, responsible, organized, thanks for that too, and I think, anyway, a good cook. My favorite meal, salmon croquettes, macaroni and cheese, and chocolate pudding. Those will be served afterward. No, I'd like that. And again, as discussed, as a family, we really did have, from my perspective, our own Camelot, very close-knit. Again, it was kind of cool, Dad's unusual profession. When people say, hey, what did your dad do? An accountant, a financial planner, which is a wonderful profession. No, he's a dancer. What? What does that mean? So, you got to explain that. Great music was played in our house, dance music or any type of music. And it definitely influenced my musicianship and my sisters as well. And their dancing, which went beyond ballroom dancing. I even taught a little dancing myself when I got out of college when I needed a little extra money. My memory of kind of Dad and Mom, one of them is that Dad would open the dance studio around noon. Nobody took ballroom dance lessons at 8 in the morning. And he would come home at night around 9 or 10 o'clock, okay? So he would come home, Mom would serve him dinner, 9 to 10 o'clock, and she would sit with him, and they would just kind of debrief. Mom, as talked about, she also worked as a paraplanner in the Old Saybrook High School elementary school, and she helped teaching at the dance studio when we were a little more grown. We had great family communications. Everything was very open, and again, leading by example. And as this wasn't talked about, besides being the one who can handle the tools, Mom was the disciplinarian, okay? Not Dad. And, we grew up very comfortably, definitely not rich, but we got by fine. So to give you a little perspective on where we had evolved to at some point in time, on their 25th anniversary, I wrote a poem, okay? And this is the poem, okay? And it's in my office at home. And it was written May 24th, we're almost there. That was their anniversary, 1978, okay? And you can see that I wrote it, Toby did the calligraphy, and Lisa did that very nice picture on the end, which, what is that, Lisa? A heart with a plant growing out of it, okay. Anyway, very short little poem. We presented that to them on their 25th anniversary, and I wrote it. 1.25 scores years ago from today, you both said, I do. And that paved the way for Jay, Toby, Lisa, 1 boy and 2 girls. The girls got it straight, the boy got the curls. They grew and they prospered and soon settled down in a Connecticut place called Old Saybrook Town. They had a nice house and 4 cars to boot. You might think them wealthy, maybe rolling in loot. But the key to their joy comprised of good-natured fun, their pride in each other, and respect for each one. You both are the key to our warm, loving home. Our hats off to you, the theme of my poem. And here, there's no joke. We're so proud to say that you are our folks' happy anniversary day. So that was my poem. So again, we are just very blessed with our family and how it's grown. Tina joining me, Tony joining Toby, Keith joining Lisa, Daniel joining Emily, Meredith joining Ben, and Mom's biggest heartbreak, obviously, was losing her booby, as she called him, our dad, 25 years ago at the age of 71. And that was only 4 years after they moved into their dream house down the street in Madison, which Mom pretty much designed with well-known architect Duo Dickinson, who actually also did this, right, this gorgeous place. So the theme of Mom's house, it has a lot of the same characteristics, actually. But as a strong, independent person, which she was, despite being that close to Dad, she carried on, but it undoubtedly left a big hole in her life. All things considered, I'd say Mom and Dad totally hit it out of the park. Like many of us, Mom was moved by music. Over the last 2 years or so, okay, while at Harbor Chase Assisted Living, I would wheel Mom down to in her wheelchair to the grand piano there at Harbor Chase, park her right next to me at the keyboard, and play for her, and whoever else there happened to saunter by. She loved the 4 instrumental songs I wrote. I wrote 4 little short instrumental songs that go into each other. I'm going to play them for her one more time, and you can listen in too. Thanks for indulging me. And I played it for you one more time. You can remember it. One other just little tidbit. There's this kind of weird, maybe twist of fate. Last week when she was not really with it, words were few as she was fading, in her waning days. Once in a while she'd come out with a word. What'd you say? And she clearly said this word, oleander. And we said, oleander, what's that? So we looked it up. Erica was there. She looked it up. And it's a plant, okay? And we looked up the Nerium oleander. And somewhere in the description of, I think, the Latin name, for some reason, I don't understand why, there was this little quote. And it said, "Listen to me, my faithful children, and blossom like a rose growing by a stream of water. We are your faithful children, and we will." Thank you.
Jay, what a beautiful tribute to your mother. And I know it comes not only from your heart, but from Toby and Lisa's as well. And one thing that I noticed, especially as the end was near, was the way the three of you worked together and bonded together. And, your mother must have been quelling to see such friendship from the children that she birthed. And not only friendship between you, but love for her. And so I want to share this prayer as we come to the close of our service. I want to share this prayer from you to your mother. I miss you. You gave me my life. You were my protector, my teacher, my moral compass, my comfort. I feel so alone without you. No one worries about me the way you did. No one loves me the way you did. Please forgive me for the times I caused you pain and for the times I took you for granted. I can't begin to fathom all the sacrifices you made for my sake. I want to thank you for all the ways you blessed my life. Nothing can replace the gaping hole your death has left in my life. But mixed together with all my sadness, there is great joy. I will remember your smile, your touch. I will remember your laughter, your kindness, your generosity, your determination, your love. Thank you for the time we shared, for the love you gave, for the wisdom you spread. I will always treasure the lessons that you taught me. I will carry them with me all the days of my life. I am so proud to be your child. May God watch over you and bless you with gentleness and with love as you blessed me. Rest in peace. Amen.
At the conclusion of the service, the pallbearers will come forward, escort the casket to the hearse. The funeral service will be followed by an interment at Beth David Cemetery, which is 300 Elmont Road in Elmont, New York. 300 Elmont Road, Elmont, New York. I invite everybody, if it's comfortable for you, to please rise. Jay, what you shared about the oleander, when you did a little research, it reminded me of, I think it's actually the first psalm in the book of Psalms that analogizes a righteous person to a tree that's firmly planted next to flowing water, and its roots go deep and the nutrients sort of soak up and give it life. And so that's a really, I think, fitting metaphor for a legacy. The image of the tree in Judaism is an image whose roots go very deep. And so that oleander, that verdant connection at a verdant time of year seems very fitting. May the source of peace bring peace to all of you who are in mourning and comfort to the bereaved of our people. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.